How's it going, everyone? I'm Gonzer, and today we're going to be going over how I would end the anime, at least Ash's run in the anime as the main protagonist. This is a topic that I've wanted to talk about for a long time, and I've talked about to a lot of people with some small ideas here and there. I've never really put together a whole idea, though, a whole kind of outline, and I'd like to go over that today. You guys can feel free to disagree and all this, but remember, this is just an opinion here, guys. In other words, fucking swallow it, relax. If you don't like the way I do it, whatever, deal with it. Okay? So, anyway, I don't know if I'm gonna have much editing in this video. We'll find out. I don't fucking know. Because there's a lot of imagery here that just doesn't exist. I don't have someone who can make me, and like, anime characters and crap like that, so I'm just gonna go and however I edit it, I do. So let's jump into it. At the end of the current series, Ash gets into the Masters 8. He beats Leon in the semi-final round of the tournament. After this, Ash battles a new face in town, which is an outright evil trainer who hits you when you're down, who even hits you when you're knocked out. Someone who is a relentless battler, far worse than Paul ever dreamed to be. In the battle for the championship against this evil trainer, let's just call the guy Shithead, like a Game Boy player would. Shithead beats the hell out of Ash for the championship. He beats Ash with only 2 or 3 Pokemon to end the battle, and at the end of it, Pikachu's the final Pokemon, and he hits Pikachu hard after Pikachu is already knocked out. So Ash is on the field, he runs out on the field to check on Pikachu, when suddenly the referee disqualifies Shithead and gives Ash the championship despite Ash having lost the battle. In that instant, Ash is essentially robbed of his dream, and he's going through the gamut of emotions, but after that, he just basically, not knowing what to do, he forfeits the championship because he feels like he didn't earn it. We later see that the semi-final losers battled for the vacant championship, which I would say Leon should win that, and then he'll say something to Ash like, I'll be waiting to battle you next year. You know, I shouldn't have been the champion this time, blah, blah, blah. We also find out that Shithead blames Ash for his disqualification, and he tells Ash that if it wasn't for Ash running out on the field all theatrical, trying to save Pikachu, that he would just be champion right now. So, you know, if you weren't such a crybaby, I'd be champion. So after that, a new generation starts. And Ash, he resets his team like normal, but this time he explains why he resets his team. He states that he wishes to be the most efficient trainer in the world, and that if he can't get the job done with any team that he trains up, then he isn't good enough of a trainer yet. Sometime down the road, Ash reunites with Richie, who was, you know, a trainer from the past who looked like Ash, who acted like Ash, who was just, you know, a kind of another version of Ash in the anime who was written to be his rival, okay? And we find out that Richie has joined the World Championships after becoming the champion of Alola. There's a reason for him being so similar to Ash here. And we find that Richie is traveling with his 9-year-old brother, who, let's just call him Cole. And Cole also wants to be a Pokemon master, okay? Ash travels with these two for a while until they run into Shithead, who Richie knows all about by now because Ash has told him. Shithead talks a lot of shit to Ash, but Ash doesn't get angry. Ash doesn't really want to battle him because of the situation that happened at the World Championships. He just kind of wants to push it to the back of his mind. But Richie sees this, and he sees that Shithead is ranked 3rd in the world, so he initiates a battle with him. And Ash is like, no, you can't be battling this guy, da-da-da-da-da. But they start the battle nevertheless, and Shithead just beats the shit out of Richie badly, like he beat Ash. But once Richie is down to just his last Pokemon, which will be Sparky, his Pikachu, Shithead laments on the fact that he gets to do the same thing that he did to Ash, and following this, he legit permanently ends Sparky's battling career and threatens to hurt Ash and his friends. Richie just gets pissed off and attacks, but gets knocked the fuck out in turn. Right, and Ash sees this and he just starts to mount an offense. He's like, Pikachu, we gotta help, da 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 da. And all of a sudden, Shithead just disappears and is like, yo, if I had a full team on me right now, if he hadn't knocked out a couple of them, I would have taken you out too, so count your fucking blessings, kid, but don't count on them too long, because I will be back for you eventually for what you did to me. At this point, Shithead doesn't think that Ash would be stupid enough to have reset his team, and this is ultimately what saved Ash. We pick up at the Pokemon Center and hospital, where we find out that Ash obviously called for help. Richie ends up stuck in the hospital for an elongated period. He admits that he should have listened to Ash, but Richie asks Ash to keep traveling and show his brother Cole the ropes. In front of the scenes, Ash, he stays strong, but you can see that behind the scenes, Ash is hurting and he's filled with regret. He thinks he should have stopped that battle from happening. He kind of doesn't know what to do as far as this trainer being in his way of his goal and in way of his life. Ash and Cole, they hit the road. Ash immediately says that they need to travel back to Pallet Town. So back to Pallet Town they go. And he brings Cole to his house. He asks him to stay there with Mimey and Delia for a little bit, and he even leaves Pikachu there. So we see Ash go to a house and he knocks on the door, and who answers the door? It is Gary motherfucking Oak. Inside, Ash goes in there, he confides in Gary, and he is unsure about being a trainer anymore after the events between himself and Shithead and Richie, and he asks Gary how he walked away from battling, and Gary looks at Ash in utter shock and wonders how someone who is so determined could end up so goddamn broken. But nevertheless, Gary points out that Ash's only interest has been battling, and he asks if he really wants to give up on the Pokemon world entirely, because that would be the alternate here. He makes Ash kind of him and haw, and he eventually makes a decision, like people like to do in these situations. When people are down, they like to change everything. And Ash decides that his previous worldview, he just says, oh, that's junk, right? And he puts together a team like Shithead does, so he'd be able to defend the people who he let down and be able to defend himself, be able to defend his Pikachu, okay? So he returns to his house and he just says, come on, Cole, we're going to Kalos. And Cole kind of sees Ash's belt and he sees there's 5 Pokeballs there. So then we get an episode where Ash is looking for something in the woods, and during that episode, Ash is getting flashes of someone else's vision. We know who this is. Someone getting beaten up and experimented on. Eventually, Ash finds the location and ends up beating the shit out of this evil team. He breaks in with his team, breaks down pretty much the entire goddamn building, thinks he has eliminated this team. He gets his Greninja back. He finds that the Zygarde cores were there as well. He gets them. And he threatens them after he captures this team, runs roughshod on them. He's like, if I see any of you again, I won't have any mercy. There's no niceness in Ash at this period of time. And at this period, we find that Ash's 5 Pokeballs included something like Infernape, Dusk Lycanroc, Sceptile, Lucario, and Charizard. As Ash is reclaiming Greninja here, you should note that Pikachu is not on the roster, despite traveling with Ash. This is because Ash has frickin' PTSD after what happened to his Pikachu at the World Championships and what happened to Richie's Pikachu right in front of him. After taking down the evil team, Ash reclaims his Greninja, of course, and brings the Zygarde cores to Bonnie, who is 9 by now, and Cole, who is 9 as well, crushes on her. Just a cute little episode in the middle there, okay? The Ash-Greninja transformation still works, but both Ash and Greninja are filled with hatred over the things that have happened to them, and together they battle differently, much more methodically and ruthlessly, let's put it that way. And during this stretch of time, Ash gives Cole advice that is the opposite of how he is acting. Advice that the old Ash would give, but the new Ash would not give. Like, always respect an opponent, and then Ash goes in and beats the crap out of an opponent and is like, you're a crappy battler. You need to get better at all this crap, blah, 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 blah. I don't even know why you thought you could even battle me. At this time, Ash is just running roughshod over tons and tons of people, just being a monster. Also, during this time, Ash isn't a fun trainer. He doesn't do his battle cry. He just kind of lobs out a Pokeball. You know, he gets annoyed when his Pokemon are even hit, and he gets ultra aggressive at any time he possibly could. One day, out of the blue, as soon as it seems that Ash is starting to get back to normal, Ash is attacked by Shithead, and Shithead demands a battle. Ash is like, nah, I don't want to do that, but Shithead says that it isn't a choice. Ash still says no, and Shithead says, bro, you're surrounded. There's nowhere to go. This is where we find out that the evil team was actually under Shithead's wing. Shithead was controlling the evil team. He's the leader of it. And he was the one experimenting on Ash's Greninja and the Zygarde cores. Y'all guys want some Zygarde? Ash and Shithead battled to their final Pokemon, and Ash barely loses. But the second he loses, the evil team surrounds Ash, Pikachu, and Cole. But Pikachu, who again doesn't battle anymore if Ash has anything to do with it, jumps into action and lets out a huge Thunderbolt, knocking a bunch of the evil team back. Ash tries to stop this and protect Pikachu, but his efforts, as well as Pikachu's efforts to fight back, are not enough. So Shithead and his team break Ash's arm. Yep, legit. They break Pikachu's leg, and they take Greninja back, and they leave Cole sitting there helpless. So then you'd probably get an episode there where Ash and Pikachu are hurt, and they're trying to get back to help. Say, like, the evil team left him there without their Rotom phones or whatever. Ash's anger at this time would be at its peak. He is no longer unsure of being a trainer. He just wants to beat Shithead's ass. He wants to destroy the evil team, and he wants to save his Greninja. He goes and tells everyone that this team is ran by Shithead and that they took his Greninja, but people are saying, oh, this guy's a liar. He's just sour because of his loss last year to him. And Ash, he does go looking for Greninja, but he can't find him and he can't connect with him every time he tries. So it becomes time for the next Pokemon World Championship tournament, and Ash enters as number 2, and Shithead enters as number 1, and it all boils down to Ash versus Shithead in the finals. The other battles don't matter. In the finals against Shithead, Ash ends up knocking out 3 of Shithead's Pokemon, and 5 of his Pokemon are knocked out, forcing Ash to use Pikachu for the first time in nearly a year, okay? Ash doesn't want to do that. In fact, he tries to forfeit, and Pikachu kind of stops him, and at this time, Pikachu browbeats Ash. He's like, Pika-Pee, you're a Pika-Petard! Let's Pika-do this shit, bitch! So Ash tries to talk sense into the barely healed Pikachu, reminding him that he is hurt, and for the first time, Ash says that being a Pokemon Master isn't everything. And he realizes what he just said, and he remembers who he truly was, and that he was never someone who would sell his soul in the endless pursuit of a goal, despite the fact he would always talk about that goal. So Ash, he lets out a huge sigh, and he suddenly goes back to normal. The scowl turns into a smile, and he goes, you know, okay, let's do this, buddy. Pikachu, I choose you! And at this point, Ash and Pikachu, they put on a perfect battle, put on an absolute display of skill. Pikachu goes through all 3 of Shithead's remaining Pokemon as Shithead flips out more and more, and in the final 1v1, Shithead attacks Pikachu's leg and slows down Pikachu, getting him hurting, but Ash and Pikachu change strategies. Pikachu literally pretends to be hurt, he plays possum, and Shithead goes for the same attack that he loves to use on these grounded Pokemon. Say who cares what his main is, but his main Pokemon loves to do this ground attack, okay? After they're down, okay? And right when that is about to happen, Pikachu spins around like a frickin' breakdancer and Iron Tails that Pokemon in the knees or his feet, whatever, and takes it down. Then Shithead, you know, realizing he is about to lose, he calls in his evil team, like with his earpiece, but nobody responds, and you see him like absolutely lose his shit. Ash calls for Pikachu. He's like, yo, do a quick attack, and right when you hit him, do a Thunderbolt. So that'd be like a pseudo Volt Tackle that would hit really hard, and it would also hurt Pikachu, but you know, whatever. It'd be a nice, strong combo move to finish it. And at this point, Ash, he wins the Pokemon World Championship, and people are very, very happy because at this point they've realized that Shithead's an evil fuck. You know, although Shithead, like the year before, was lying that he thought Pikachu wasn't knocked out yet and all this crap, they've realized, yeah, this guy's a shithead by the way he was acting during this specific match. Right as the celebration begins, though, Ash's Greninja comes on the field out of nowhere, essentially looking to murder Shithead. And there's a reason this is Greninja, because Greninja is shown to be like Ash, okay? There's a reason I used Richie and Greninja, okay? So, we find out on a news flash in the stadium that the evil team that Shithead runs had been taken out entirely, but for real this time, and we put 2 and 2 together, and Greninja broke free and destroyed them, right? We see like water shurikens all over their facility and shit on the news. Ash tries to reconnect with Greninja to stop Greninja from frickin' murdering Shithead, but he can't. So, he quickly runs and jumps in front of Greninja at the last second, and he kind of talks Greninja down. And this is an important moment because it is essentially the Ash who we know and love talking to the person he became. Okay? He talks about how winning isn't everything. He talks about how power isn't everything. He talks about how getting the shit end of the stick is often just bad luck and outside of your control. He talks about how hurting Shithead might make him feel better for a quick minute, but it won't fix the issue. But nonetheless, Greninja pushes Ash to the side and looks like he's going to strike Shithead with a giant shuriken. And Ash says, "I love you, Greninja. Please don't do this." And remembering what he wanted before the time he met Ash, Greninja essentially swings down right by Shithead's head, leaving the shuriken in the ground, and just gives up his anger. Sits there, and Ash eventually recalls him, and that ordeal's over. After Ash wins the World Championship, a parade is thrown where the new champion is celebrated. We find out that Cole is only 10 days from turning 10 and getting his Pokemon license. Throughout the series, of course, we'd have Cole counting down the days, counting down the months, weeks, days, minutes, okay? In the crowd, we see familiar faces. We see multiple of Ash's traveling companions. We see Ash's most important rivals. We see people like Paul and Dawn. Ash is told afterward that the Kalos Queen would like to see him, and he goes in wondering why Arya would like to see him, and he finds out that Serena is now Kalos Queen, and she is traveling the world trying to put together a worldwide version of the Pokemon Performance Contest. Ash is shown to spend the night alongside her, watching the fireworks show, celebrating his rise to champion. The next day, Serena's about to leave, and she hugs Ash goodbye and says, I wish we didn't have to leave each other again. And Ash says, hold that thought. He brings Cole aside and he says to him, Cole, you're days away from becoming a trainer. I think it is time that you head back home and get ready for your adventure. So Cole is reluctant to travel alone, but Ash tells him that he will find friends along the way, just like he did. Right when you think that Ash is done talking, he lifts up his Pikachu and he puts him on Cole's shoulders and comments that they are a good fit. Pikachu and Cole look equally shocked, but Ash, displaying that he is the Ash we know and love, says that his journey is effectively over. He can't leave the ones he loves friendless and defenseless. He doesn't want Pikachu to have to stop doing what he loves to do either, which is adventuring and finding new friends. So Ash hugs Cole and he hugs Pikachu goodbye, and he promises them that in the future he will see them. And Ash gets in the limo with Serena, and the last shot that we see of Ash Ketchum as the main protagonist would be of him and Serena kind of starting to hold hands. They both kind of go into hold hands, and then they do, right? And then Serena throws his arm around her and scooches up real close against him, and then you see the limo just drive off into the distance away from the camera. And as it gets pretty far away from the camera itself kind of moves outward, and then you see Cole and Pikachu sitting there, and their tears, they turn to a smile, and Cole says, "Let's go, Pikachu. We've got to get home so I can get my Pokemon license and we can start a new journey." That's the end. I think this would be a good way to end the anime. I think this would be a good way to keep Pikachu in the anime. I think it would be smart to have Ash also appear later on as well. But I think that giving the Pikachu away, keeping him as a mascot and all that, but it also does some things for Cole where he can say, this is Ash Ketchum's Pikachu. He can be a little dumbass like Ash originally was. He could brag about whose Pikachu it is and then just get his ass kicked. It makes a lot of interesting stories there, I think. But I don't know. I think a lot of people see Ash and Pikachu dying by each other. Hopefully we never see that story. That's going to be it for today, guys. You guys can like, comment, subscribe, and please share. This channel just got hurt big time by the anime going on hiatus. Sharing is the most important thing you can do, and it helps a ton. But before we go, in the comments, tell me, how would you end the anime? And I'll put a little thingy up in the right corner which will ask you a question. Do you think that Ash and Pikachu should break up in the end, or do you think that they should just die together? Straight up, okay? But that's gonna be it for today, guys. Peace out, cats.